mentioned when you moved to, based on what you told us before, we correct an understanding that the beatings, the pushing of the furniture, that sort of thing with your dad continued throughout your high school years?
Yes.
Were those the incidents you were talking about before, about being pushed into the post and the furniture, or were there other incidents?
That happened when I was in high school. There were a few things that happened right before we moved. A bunch of friends and I one night decided, like the last night I was there, we decided to sneak out of the house and hang out. And my parents woke up and found out, so when I came back, my dad asked where I had been, and I had fallen asleep. He woke me up around 6, and so when I sat up and I was disoriented because I had been sleeping, so I didn't give him a satisfactory answer, so he hit me across the face and I fell back down, and then he sat me back up and asked me again, and I didn't give him a satisfactory answer, so he hit me across the face again, and I fell down again.
When you say he hit you across the face, did he punch you?
No, it was an open-handed, hard slap.
Do you recall, did you bleed?
No, I didn't. Not that I recall.
Did you bruise?
Not that I recall.
Did it hurt?
Yes.
Just so we can clarify as well, your dad's a pretty big guy, right?
He was very big at that time. His health he's frail now, but he was very big at the time.
Can you give us an idea of how tall and how much he weighed at that time?
I don't know his weight, but he's about 5'11". He used to bench press 520 pounds. He was a really big guy for a while.
You said he used to bench press 500 something pounds.
520, yes.
Was that a hobby of his, weightlifting, or can you describe that for us?
Yes, he was very much into weightlifting. He had, I guess it was like a Bowflex machine at home. I think it was called Soloflex. It was one from like the 80s, but he would use that a lot to work out. He was into martial arts. We watched a lot of movies like that. Things like that. He went to the gym frequently.
To your knowledge, was your mom aware, I know you mentioned the one incident where your mom was present, was your mom aware of your dad beating you?
Well, when she was present, yes, of course. Sometimes we were on road trips together, and they would take turns if they, had to pull the car over or something. Not that it happened several times in one trip, but I remember it being both my mom and my dad punishing me in the presence of each other. And I don't know, when she was gone, I assumed they would talk about it.
Okay. You talked a little bit about your dad during high school and the mom with the wooden spoon. In your younger years, did your mom's beatings with the wooden spoon, did they continue in high school as well?
They continued for a short time, but I think as I turned 16, 17, I don't recall her carrying the wooden spoon around. She would just start grabbing whatever was available, like a hairbrush, or she had acrylic nails, so sometimes she would grab me and dig her nails into my skin, things like that.
Okay. In high school, what were some of your interests?
In high school, I was very interested in learning Spanish, so I took that all throughout high school and middle school. I was getting into art. I was excited to get my driver's license. I traveled abroad to Costa Rica to learn Spanish better. I had a few friends. I didn't really make a lot of close friends like I had before. It just seemed like I was constantly making friends and then we were moving away. So, sustained.
Did you have a lot of friends in high school?
I had a large circle of friends, but nobody I was very close with.
Would I be correct in assuming that your interest in art by the time you're in high school moved beyond the Crayola crayon phase?
Yeah, very much so.
Tell us about that.
I was at my grandmother's house one day and she had an old set of oil paint, and I knew what oil paint was. I'd never worked in that medium before, so I didn't know what I was doing. I just took a piece of printer paper and started painting oil paint on this paper, and oil began to spread around the paint. So I figured, okay, that's not going to work. So I went to Michael's, the arts and crafts store, and bought some supplies and began to experiment with that, and started painting.
And did you work during high school?
I did. My dad owned a restaurant at the north end of town. It's now a Mexican restaurant, but he owned it then, and I would work as a server there from the time I was a freshman on through, I think, 96 or 7 when he closed it.
So you started working in 9th grade. How old were you in 9th grade?
In 9th grade, I was 15.
And was there a certain amount of days you worked while you were in high school?
He put me on a few afternoons and the weekends.
Okay. Did you graduate high school?
No, I didn't.
Why didn't you graduate high school?
At the time, about 3 months, well, it's kind of complicated.
Okay. Well, let's talk about it. Did you drop out of high school?
Yes, I did.
Where were you living at the time that you dropped out of high school?
I was living with my boyfriend at the time, about a little town 6 miles outside of Wairika.
Let's break it. Why did you leave? Prior to that, were you living with your parents?
Yes.
Why did you leave your parents' home to go live with your boyfriend?
I was kind of becoming tired of the discipline, and I was 3 months until I was 18, and one day they decided to ground me until I was 18 because I skipped one period in high school because there was a final for I was taking a college history class, U.S. history, and I didn't feel like I adequately studied for the exam, so I skipped that period to study for the exam, and decided I would make it up the next day. So I parked my car in the parking lot of Rite Aid and just cracked open the book, and I was studying it for that hour. And my dad, somehow he found me. It's a small town, so I guess the school notified him that I wasn't present for that class. So he found me, and at that point they didn't use physical discipline that day, but I was grounded till I was 18. So I couldn't fathom being grounded for 3 months. When you were grounded in my house, it meant no phone, no TV, no friends, no social functions of any kind. You're in your room, period. So
let me ask you this. This would have been towards the end of your senior year in high school, or was this at the end?
Yeah, it was in May, I think.
Okay, so of your senior year or of your junior year?
April. My junior year. Okay. Yes.
So you dropped out of high school before you finished your junior year? Is that right?
No, I did finish the junior year, mostly with D's and F's, because toward the end of the year, I just let it all fall apart.
You mentioned discipline, you talked about grounding. Was there any particular physical incident or an incident of abuse that motivated you to leave your parents' home?
One of the incident I described where I was knocked against, I called it a doorpost, I guess it's a door frame. Then at that point the guy I was dating, we started talking about me possibly moving in with him. So after that incident, I began to surreptitiously pack boxes of my things and start moving them out to his house. And then when they grounded me until I was 18, all of my stuff mostly was there. And I thought, I was going to wait until I was 18 to move in with him. But was 3 months away, and it just made sense to me at the time as a 17-year-old. So I just moved out.
Okay. After your junior year, then, did you just not go back to school? Is that?
Yeah, I turned 18 that summer. I got a job at another restaurant and began working there full time. I had bills to pay now, car insurance and credit cards and that kind of thing. So it just, to me, it made more sense to work so I could support myself and my boyfriend. He didn't have a job.
And what was your boyfriend's name?
His name was Bobby.
What was his last name?
Juarez.
And Mr. Juarez, how old was he in relation to you?
He was 3 years older than me.
So he would have been out of school, I would assume?
Yes, he was out of high school.
And what did he do for a living?
He had never been employed at that point, so, you know, it was an isolated town we lived in, and it was difficult to obtain employment.
Okay. So let me ask you this, as it relates to Mr. Juarez, when did you meet him?
I first met him the first summer that I moved to Wairika when I was 15. The carnival comes to town, and so I was there with the girl I had mentioned that my mom introduced me to. Her and her sister, we were there, and I saw him walking in a crowd with a few other friends, and he caught my eye. He was very intriguing looking. He was kind of dressed like 18th century Goth, kind of. He was.
Can you describe for some of us who may not follow that reference, just describe what he was wearing? Maybe?
Yeah, it was like July or August when I met him, and it's in the maybe triple digits in the temperature. It's very hot. Wairika gets really hot, not quite like the desert, but in the triple digits in the summer. But this guy was dressed in a black suit and a high collar white shirt, and he was on crutches. He had long, dark, curly hair, and he just seemed intriguing to me, so I remember seeing him walk by, and I didn't approach him or anything, but I noticed him. So we spent the day there, my friends and I, walking around, and at one point they were getting in line for the zipper. I didn't want to get on the zipper. There was only 2 per cage anyway, so I was kind of the third odd one out. So I just stood next to the line waiting for them to go on the zipper and come back. But I was just looking around, and I caught his eye again, and he was looking right at me. And he motioned for me to come over. He went like that, and I didn't know if he was talking to me, so I kind of looked around and looked at him again, and he did it again. So I walked up to him, and he said, in a very kind way, he said, "Do you want to go?" Oh, sorry. 15.
Let me ask you this without telling you what he said, and just to clarify a bit based on what you told us, he would have been around the age of 18 at this time, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you were 15. You meet him at a state fair.
Yes.
Thing. Okay. Tell us then, do you begin a relationship at that point in time, or just kind of describe for us how that relationship was at that time?
No, he invited me to go on the zipper with him, so we went on one ride with that and talked a little bit as we were flipping around, and after that we parted, and I didn't see him again for a while.
Okay. When did you see him again?
I think it was October, maybe November of that same year. I was at a homecoming football game from my high school, and I saw him again, and he was with some friends. And I was really shy, but I wanted to say hi to him, so I walked up to him and said, "Do you remember me?" And he said he remembered me, but he couldn't remember my name, so I told him I didn't remember his name either. So we kind of reintroduced ourselves, and he said, "Tell me your phone number, and I promise I'll remember it." So I gave him the house phone, which was my parents' phone. We didn't have cell phones. And he remembered it and called me.
Did you begin dating at that time?
No, we were just friends. We talked for a while. We weren't dating.
Okay.
He was actually seeing a girl, I think. I don't remember.